Okay, hello anybody watching. Hi. Um,
Hi.
Tonight we are talking about the vaginal fantasy book Greywalker. Did anybody read the alt before I go too far?
No.
No.
Okay, so we're safe. Is Beck
Wouldn't
frozen?
you on my cover?
No, it's fine. She's been like that for a while. Beck, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, it's just your video seems to be frozen. I'm not sure why. That's okay, as long as you're there, that's the main thing. Okay, so yes, we're discussing Greywalker tonight, but before we get started, does anybody have any drinks that they would like to share?
I've nearly finished mine.
Don't worry, I'm more than halfway through. I'm
I
having
was drinking Pinot Noir. I think it's 42 degrees south. It's very nice, but it's leftovers from last night and there's not very much left.
Well, you could always, if there's nothing else left, there's nothing you can do, but if not, you can always ask Matt to do a refill for you.
You know, this is the last of the bottle because we drank most of the bottle last night. There's only one glass left.
Anybody else?
Well, I'm drinking hot lemon. Hot lemon and water.
Mm-hmm. Nice and soothing little bit.
Orange and cinnamon tea.
I'm
I
having
was drinking Pinot Noir. I think it's 42 degrees south. It's very nice, but it's leftovers from last night and there's not very much left.
Darn it. Well, you could always, sorry guys, all of a sudden the video for the show started playing in the background and it's like I've got two shows going in my ears.
I was like, why am I listening to myself? That was very strange.
Yeah, sorry about that. Something I have to do to get the links all set up, and unfortunately that almost happens every single time, but you never know when it's going to happen, so I just have to wait for it and then rush to turn it off and hope that I don't get confused. Anyway. Alrighty. So, starting off with Greywalker, did everybody finish before we go any too far so that I know if anybody doesn't want to be spoiled or anything, although pretty much I assume you want to be spoiled if you're here.
Yeah, I finished.
Cool. Alrighty. So, general opinions, thoughts, feelings, that sort of stuff. Shall we start with you, Jamie?
Oh, sure. It was okay. I think it was alright. It wasn't the greatest written book in the world. I don't know. I like the story, I suppose, but I don't think it was very well written, and I think that threw me off a little bit. And I think in particular the dialogue seemed really weird. Like I love to read books, and I have like my entire life pretty much, ever since I've been reading since 11 or whatever. And I don't write books or anything, so I don't know anything about them in regards to how you're supposed to write them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But it didn't seem well written, and the dialogue seemed weird, and it seemed choppy, and the descriptions weren't very good. Like, even though the gray was mentioned 1,000 times, I still don't really know what it is or what it looked like. I don't know. That's pretty much my general overall thoughts about it.
Karina?
Yeah, pretty much the same. It was really clunky. There were parts of it that because it was an easy read, but it was a problem for me, it being an easy read, because it meant that I sort of skim read it, and then I'd think that I'd missed parts, and I'd go back and reread it, and realize I hadn't missed parts, it was just poorly written. And that was really irritating for me, feeling like I'd missed parts, only to find out I hadn't missed parts. It's just whatever she's trying to convey didn't come across. So for me, it was really weak, yeah.
Yep. I agree with that.
Like the story, it just it didn't do that much for me to begin with.
Hester?
I must be in the minority because I actually quite liked it, but I think it's probably a lot to do with I was really ready for a nice, easy read. I've been reading a lot of long, heavy books, and I was just ready for something. It didn't take any effort to read, and so that probably maybe if I hadn't been in that kind of mood, I would have been a lot more critical of it than I was. I found it very predictable though, and I kind of actually liked that because I was like, usually I don't like detective novels because I'm really shit at figuring out what's going on. Whereas this, I was like, yeah, I know exactly what's happening here. I looked at my notes and gone, like I will probably talk about it a bit more later, but the notes that I've made were, oh, I bet the guy calling is dead, and then the next note that I've made is, oh, this dude is totally a vampire. Like before you found out, because I was just like, yeah, it was very predictable. There were a few bits that sort of stuck out like a sore thumb that didn't make sense. The Wyan, that's how it was.
Wyan?
Wagon.
Yeah, that guy, that whole scene was just, I didn't really get what was going on there. But overall, I kind of liked it because I found it to be nice and easy, and I was ready for that. And I didn't mind the main character, and I quite liked the love interest, and I quite liked Quentin. Is it Quentin? Was that the name of the guy? No, Quentin was the love interest. What was the name of the guy that was the tipsy guy?
The antique guy.
No,
Will.
no, it's the guy that came and did a alarm system.
Mr.
Quentin.
Fixit. That was Quentin.
That was Quentin. That was it. I liked him. So yeah.
Cool. Beth?
I actually realised when I started reading it that I'd started reading it before and at another time and had stopped because I just found it kind of boring. I actually read more this time and I actually enjoyed it a lot more than the first time, but at first I found it really hard to get into. Like it just took me forever to actually get into wanting to read it, and I start reading something else instead because that was more interesting. But then I did kind of like it. Like the writing wasn't that great. There's actually a few points where I just marked down and I just feel like, oh my god, what is that? Especially, I didn't like the description of Will.
Yeah.
There was just this moment when I don't know, she introduced him and said something about his hands, and it just kind of threw me because it was like I was just imagining like giant hands. So I don't know. Yeah, but it was easy enough to read once I got into it.
Yeah. I felt about the same. I was really looking forward to it because I wanted a nice light read, and I was looking forward to just sort of enjoying it basically and not having to think very hard. But that opening was just not cutting it for me. I was like, that doesn't feel very light and fluffy. And then I think I was all right with the concept. Like I could deal with the grey concept. I was like, okay, I'm all right with this. But then when they brought the vampires in, and it was like this really weird disjointed thing where, oh my gosh, this idea of the grey is sort of out there and weird. Oh, but there's vampires and nobody's sort of really fretting over that. That disjointedness between, oh, I can't accept that there's this weird and occultist type world, to suddenly, oh, yes, I can, and it's perfectly fine and weird, but whatever, it's all good. Vampires have always been there, and I was just like, and I think it was also just the fact that I was like, vampires again. I was really kind of enjoying the fact that this was a bit different. So I was actually probably about halfway point. I was actually looking up to see if my library had the rest of the books, thinking, oh, I might actually read on with this. This is not too terrible. Oh my god, I just want to get it over and done with once the vampires turned up totally. Not that I've got anything about wrong with vampires when they're done properly. I just felt like this wasn't it. Cool. All right. Let's have a look at some parts then, guys. Well, since I'm only talking about the vampires, what did everybody think? Did you think that the vampires were alright? Did anybody else feel like me that it was sort of sudden and weird that they came in? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that it was a bit corny and didn't really fit with the story, I suppose. Like, I would have been much more interested in a story about the Grey and her and the things within the Grey, not about vampires. Like, where'd that come from? That was stupid. But I have to admit, though, like the only character that I did like was actually Carlos. I would have really liked to have learned more about him and gotten a bit of a better personality with him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. They're a bit cheesy, kind of like the whole dirt thing.
Mm.
Yeah, right?
Never
I
liked
mean,
that.
that didn't make much sense to it.
Yeah,
I
I've
suppose
never liked that in any vampire thing where they have the dirt and the coffins, and it's just like, really?
I would have probably been more interested if she was actually thoroughly exploring it, but just dropping it in at the end like that, it wasn't properly explored at all.
Mm-mm. And then she like takes it upon herself, like she can't accept the gray, but she can totally be employed by a vampire to go into the biggest vampire in the city and make it her responsibility to take care of the other vampire. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like if you're afraid of the gray and you're not able to accept that, then why the hell are you going to go and take on like the biggest vampire in the city? That doesn't make any sense. Like
Mm.
at all. Does that make sense to anyone else? I mean,
No.
usually you'd be
I guess
consistently afraid.
the only way I could rationalise it is if she's in so much denial that she's like, oh, they're not really that dangerous. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, she kind of couldn't
True.
really accept that the grey was real, so maybe she didn't really think the vampires were actually real, even though she sort of knew they were. She was kind of not really taking it on board. I don't know. But yeah.
Possibly. Yeah.
Huge, weird experience with the wagon guy, and everyone's telling her how terrible Edward is, and then she just walks in to confront Edward after she had this really messed up experience with another vampire. Like, does
Yeah.
not know that if everyone's saying this guy's the worst of the worst, why would you then go into that situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
Because when she was sort of explaining how he couldn't hurt her for these reasons, I was like, you know, if he really was such a big bad dude, I don't think your reasons would be stopping him.
Yeah.
I found Edward to be an interesting character as well because, well, potentially interesting. Like, he's this big badass vampire that everyone hates, and yet he didn't do anything important in the novel, like at all. It was a bit strange. Like, it felt like there was potential there for him to be a really great character. Not like your typical like villain character, like a different kind of character, but like it just I kept expecting something interesting to happen with him that wasn't your typical villain stuff, but then nothing happened at all, and I was like, oh, okay, well I guess I don't know why he's really there to begin with.
Even in the final scene where he's supposed to be doing his big badass stuff with Carlos, I was sort of like, I don't really see exactly what you're doing. Like, Carlos was scribing stuff on the ground, and what was the witch's name again?
Mara.
Yeah.
Mara? She was scribing stuff and seemed to be doing things, but I couldn't tell what he was doing there at all.
Nothing. I don't think he was doing anything. It was weird.
Very weird.
I think he was largely there to maintain his image with the other vampires.
Well, I understood that choice, but like, if only Carlos and Mara were needed to take care of this thing, which clearly was stated before when they visited there together that they couldn't, and that they needed somebody else and they needed a vampire because a vampire would be able to do what was needed. But then he didn't do anything to make it make sense. So it was this weird sort of thing. I was like, and then suddenly they were lighting. It was a case of similar to what happened when he was in the room with Wagon, and suddenly it just didn't make sense, and something had happened, and I was like, I feel really stupid, like I've missed something, but I can't see what's there.
I know, right?
And it was the same thing in that scene for me. I was like, I feel like I'm really stupid, but something's missing out of this scene.
Yeah, that's why I keep kept thinking to myself that was really badly written. Like, I think that the elements of the story are there and could have been really good, but it just wasn't written very well to convey to me what was going on. Like, I'm not a very critical reader, but I would have thought at least I would have known what the gray was by the time I finished the book, and I still have no fucking idea what it is, or where it is, or how she sees it, or what's it look like. Like, I still don't really understand that whole thing at all, and I was just like, just kept reading.
Yeah, it was very confusing book. I think can anybody remember? Did Bonnie say in the Hangout that it was better when it got further along?
Can't
I think she
remember.
said the second book was her favorite one.
Yeah, so that's not even all that much further along, really, is it?
No.
Not a lot of room for growth there. Beck, I can
Mm.
see you again, and Kim's here.
Hello. I was
Ah.
very tired and I fell asleep and nothing woke me up. Hmm.
We're just talking about the fact that the book seemed to have bits of gaps and stuff in it when you were in the middle of a scene. Suddenly things were happening and you didn't understand why.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know you mentioned it, but just to expand on it further, like that whole wagon scene, I have no idea what happened. None whatsoever.
Oh, I'm glad it
I
wasn't
don't
just me.
understand.
I thought I was just not reading it very carefully.
I reread it like 3 times, and I'm like, what is going on? But like in the gray, he looks like a monster in the gray, I think, and he pulls something from the gray, and he like lodges it in her trust. Like that doesn't, I don't understand.
From what I could understand of it, and it wasn't a lot, but it seemed to be implied that he had caused her now to be able to see the grey, like original, very beginning part of it. He was sort of saying that he was the one who wanted her to be able to see it, but she wasn't developing as fast as he wanted her to with her skills. That's all I really got out of it. Even the bit where he lodged something in her chest, I didn't realise he'd done that until she got to Mara, and I was like, oh, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the following chapter, she wakes up in bed with Will, and I was just like, wait,
What happened?
Yeah, I actually went back and I must have skipped ahead of chapters by accident and missed the sex scene. No, I didn't.
I was like, oh, they're just in bed together. That's nice.
Yeah, so we didn't even get good sexy times out of it.
It was really disappointing.
So what did people actually enjoy? Because I didn't hate it either, so I'm sort of like, well, what did we enjoy out of this book then? What was good?
Oh, I know. I actually found a little bits refreshing for me. She had a girl that she talked to all the time that was a good friend. Well, that's a good plus. There wasn't a love triangle, or at least not really.
Yeah.
She wasn't falling over boys or focusing on relationships or anything like that. Like she was just focusing on her job and what she was doing with it. I mean, it was badly written, but like those elements were excellent. Like I
was
want
glad
those things in a book. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, Kirsten, I missed what you said.
Sorry, I said I was glad the vampires were not love interests.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
I was actually relating it a lot to the book that we read. We read the first 2 books of it last year for Badger and Fantasy. What are they? The one where she's a half human, and it's written by the same one who did.
I know what you mean, but I can't think of it.
It's by Jacqueline Carey.
That's Jacqueline Carey, yeah, that's it.
Like,
The Agent of Hell series?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it, yeah. The Agent of Hell series.
That was a lot better.
Yeah, I was going to say, that one was a lot better written, but I found it annoying with the love triangle-y stuff. I was just like,
Yeah.
you just stop with the love triangle shit. Actually, it was like a love quadruple thing going on.
and that was not focused on boys.
Yeah. And I was really enjoying the other elements of it. I enjoyed her, and I wanted her to stop talking about boys all the time. Whereas this one had that, but it didn't have the good, well-written backstory to the mystery and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Actually, found the very first chapter to be really, really grabs me. Like the very beginning when she's getting attacked. You know, you find out why she almost died, or she died. I found that like it was like reading an action book, and it was like, oh, this is really exciting. And then, yeah, none of the other action scenes in the book really matched that as far as detail and
Yeah.
feeling that, oh my god, like I was panicking. It's only the first chapter. When her hair was caught in the elevator and she's going up in the elevator and she's trying to cut her hair, that was like, I was sitting on the edge of my seat. But none of the other parts of the book were as good as that.
Yeah. It's like they spent a whole heap of time on that first chapter and then didn't worry about really seriously editing the rest of it or something.
Also, like I said, I'm not a very critical reader, but like that first scene and stuff, the way it's written a bit funny. Not bad, but like almost as if she's like telling it as a story in the past or something like that. It's a bit strange the way that it's written, actually, and it seems to not match the rest of the book at all, but it's really good.
I found that I felt like it should have been written in the present tense, but it was written in the past tense, but the way it was written was like it was happening right that second. And so I found that a little bit disjointed, but at the same time I think that that's why it was so intense feeling as well. And I agree, like my only real complaint about it at the beginning scene was that this was not what I was expecting from this book, and so to open up and just be hit in the face with that much violence straight away, I was just like, what the hell is this book?
It was kind of like, it was written almost as if like you'd read the scene and you sort of had to interpret in your head what had happened. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was like written a bit strangely for me. I don't know.
It's like reading some of those classics where you sort of have to infer and understand abstract notions and things and references, and you're like, I feel like I need the notes book, the study notes to read along with it, except for you could tell it wasn't of that quality.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the way, in case you're interested, my library does have the entire series. I don't know why, but apparently it must be that popular.
You just have a really good library. Your library seems to have everything.
Well, it doesn't have everything, but I do pretty well out of it. Like, I usually get the main. I'd say probably over 50% of the time they've had the main for me, so I've been pretty lucky. But they're terrible with their ebooks when it comes to speculative fiction. I've spoken to them several times about it, but they're not really listening to me. But yes, I love my library. It's a very, very good library. But and I think because it's newish, it also has fairly up-to-date books. Like, they had to stock it, and so it's been open probably about 7 years now. So that's enough time to have stocked it up fairly well. But it doesn't have some of the older stuff as well. So.
My library's pretty good too. It always has the books. I don't think I've had a month yet where it hasn't had it. So it's good for me. And I can order them, like, they're all connected around the Newcastle area, so I can order them to my local library and go to the library and pick them up.
That's what mine does as well. It's so good. I love that.
Yeah.
Best part about it. Because when we do Sandman next month, they've even got that, and I'm like, yes.
Yep. That's how I've been reading Sandman. And Saga, it had Saga too.
Oh, did they? Mine didn't have Saga. There you go.
How funny. I didn't look at my library. I'm looking now on their catalogue, and they have the series, but they don't have the first book.
Oh, that means someone didn't return it. I bet you anything.
Yeah. It's really funny not having the first one.
That's one
I
thing.
noticed in my library they were supposed to have the first book, but when I went to look for it, I couldn't find it. I'm like, yeah. Either someone's taken off with it or someone's just wandered off and put it in the wrong spot. I have the second one.
Either that, or in the intervening time between you looking it up and going to the shelves to pick it up,
Yes,
someone who was also in Battle Fantasy went and picked it up and borrowed it. I always jump on. Sorry, Kirsten.
No, you go.
Is it just me, or is Kirsten breaking up?
Am I? Sorry, I said you go.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say that I'm always jumping online to order the books as soon as they're announced, because I'm like, I don't want somebody else who's in the book club to get it before me. Because if there is a copy, it's always just one copy.
It's a shame it's not the old style library card, so you could look and see who's the person that borrowed it before me, and you can find out if they're a book club person.
Yeah, I must admit that's one thing I miss about the library system. As much as I love the fact that it's all electronic and I can look it up online and book them and all of that, having the old style library cards would be nice as well. In fact, it's almost very impersonal the way the library works now, because I go online, I book the book, they put it onto the shelf in the holding on hold area. So I walk in, pick it up off the shelf, do a self-check. I don't talk to anyone. I don't even look at anybody in the eye.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was really tempted one day. I went to get a book off the on-hold shelf, and there were all these books around that were really good picks that I'd read. I was really tempted to like get out a piece of paper and write in people notes and stick them in the book. Like, I shouldn't really do that.
No.
I would love it if someone did that.
Joyce, I love this.
That's awesome. I love
I would
it.
get so excited if I opened a book and someone had written me a little note in there like that. I reckon that'd be awesome.
I'm going to so do that now. Just the books that I
When
really
you go
like.
to return a book, just write something on a little post-it and stick it just inside in one of the pages.
Oh, I already use Post-its
Like,
for
you
taking
know,
notes while I'm reading, so why not?
it'd be good for a really bad book. Like you could put in the first few pages, don't even bother.
I might do it on this one then. Hi, don't bother with this book. As much as the ending sounds, the beginning sounds awesome, you get a little bit further in and you get lost.
Stick it on the second chapter and went, you just read the good part.
Yeah. I'll put it here. So that's chapter 1. I'll put it on this lovely blank page there. I wonder if anybody will ever notice. I sometimes find with my library, like I'll get the books and I'll be looking at them. I'm like, I'm not sure anybody's ever actually borrowed this.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that. I've been reading a second book in a series that I've been reading before it. But anyway, it's a brand new. It looks like a brand new book from the library, and I spilled coffee all over it today. So I'm gonna have to replace it. I was so sad. I was like, shit. Sad face.
Could have been worse. I suppose it could have been yours.
Yeah.
Guilt's not as bad if it's your own, though.
True, the guilt's
More guiltless, maybe.
not there. If it's not beyond repair and it's a library book, then I'm okay with it as long as it's still readable. But if I did it to my own and it was beyond repair, I'd be devastated. No, sorry, no, not if it was beyond. Sorry, reverse. If I did it to my own, but it was only a little bit of damage, I'd be so upset because it's my book that's going to be sitting on my shelf and I have to look at it. Whereas library books get destroyed all the time. The number of people who fold the fucking pages.
I do that. I do that.
Naughty.
Naughty.
No, no.
I have a lovely stack of bookmarks. Do I need to send you some?
Yes. I don't have any.
I can make a
just grab the
suggestion.
nearest bit of paper.
Yes. Piece of paper works. I get, because I buy most of my books from Book Depository, they send you a bookmark with every single book.
And they're really pretty.
They are very pretty. Look at these. I'll show you a couple. Look at this.
Oh,
That one's
I
cute.
that.
Nice. I love them. This one here, these are like travel stamps or postage stamps, but they're
Nice.
but they're from the different places. Like one is from the Immigration for Narnia. The other one's Neverland. Land of
that's
Oz
cool.
Immigration. Wonderland, and I'm pretty sure, even though this one doesn't explicitly say it, that it must be for King's Cross Station, like, because it's got the train on it for Harry Potter.
Oh, cool.
Isn't that pretty? Actually, they had a competition a couple of months ago for people to enter and put artwork in for it to win, and I almost entered, but then I was like, oh, they were just so much better than what I could do, so I didn't do it. I'll do it next time. I won't let it get on top of me next time. I'll be just like, just go for it.
Mine. I got one from my Secret Santa. And I think I put it out on the bookshelf with all the other bookmarks. But I think I had it in the book.
Yeah, I've only got 2, and they're kind of boring, the ones I've got. One's the Year of the Horse one. Actually, I had a couple of those, and I destroyed one. Yeah, isn't that interesting?
I've got about 5 Year of the Horse ones, because that's all they were doing at the end of their last batch. And I was like, chucking, no, they're no good compared to the rest of them.
I mean, what year was I again? Oh, that's right, I'm Year of the Pig. True.
The one I got has said there's never a book long enough or a cup of tea big enough or something like that, and I'm like, oh man, that is so perfect for me.
It's so good. Because did you guys know that you can actually vote for those? Like they pick some of those, but then when they're running the competition, you can actually vote for them as well. But it's not running at the moment. It's obviously done, and they're on their second round now. But you can actually vote, and I know that at least one of the ones I voted for won, and I'm hoping one day I'll get a copy of it. Only I wasn't on a stingy buying books. I'm not allowed to buy books at the moment.
I just ordered a pre-order book yesterday, even though I shouldn't be buying stuff either. But it's the new Robin Hobb one. I'm like, oh, I have to have a hardcover.
I was going to say it's Robin Hobb. Of course, you didn't hold back.
No.
See, I'm saving up for when the next ancillary book comes out. I'm like, I've got to be able to buy that one when it comes out.
I bought the first one on Kindle, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Robin Hobb is going to be at Supernova in Brisbane in November. So I'm like, ooh. I was thinking I should wait and buy it there and get her to sign it. I would just bring my hardcover one.
Yeah, okay.
My soft covers are falling apart. Like the front covers are almost fallen off them. So it's not really a lot of point getting them signed.
Oh, they've got all those lovely new covers that they're doing for her books. You can always get those.
I had unlimited money.
Hint, hint. Matt, hint, hint. Matt, are you listening?
No, he's got his headphones in. He's watching.
Oh well. Well, we're way off topic again. What else?
I was watching the official hangout and taking notice of the fact that we're not the only ones that get completely off topic for ages. The official hangout does that too.
As much as I love the fact doing all of these and I love talking to you guys, the simple fact of the matter is these books don't have that much you can discuss in them.
No.
Unless, of course,
very true.
And this is the problem I found with this book. It wasn't cheesy and bad enough for us to completely pick it apart and tear it apart, you know, the way we do with the really awful ones. But it's also not good enough for us to rave over it. So I was just like...
And I found it weird that nothing seemed to be mentioned beyond Alice's name than her name once. Did anybody notice Alice's name?
Yeah, I did because I went, Alice and Edward, really?
Yeah.
Well, Alice, her last name, Alice's last name is Liddell.
Ooh.
And I'm like, that sounds familiar. Alice Liddell is supposed to be the girl who Alice in Wonderland was based on, who Lewis Carroll
Oh, really?
his name was written for. Yeah.
There you go.
But it didn't really seem to
Yeah.
at all or make any reference besides the name that there was anything about that Alice was that Alice or that anything was related to that. I'm like, Alice Liddell, I know who that is.
I thought it sounded familiar, but I couldn't place it, and I just thought, oh, it's just...
Something sort of triggers.
Yeah.
But isn't Alice? Wait, just let me clarify. Alice was the bad, like the bad vampire.
Bad one. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So she, I think, is going to turn up later in the series. So maybe we find out more about why and that choice later on, if you choose to read forward.
Possibly.
Yeah, no, I won't be. Too many other things to read.
Yeah, well, that's part of my problem too. If I was really bored, like if I was looking for things to read, I might have read on with this series just to see if it got any better. The fact of the matter is, it's got too much other stuff to read. Damn, Yolanda, you keep me so busy.
Did anyone, just a random thing, did anyone find it very strange that she didn't have a cell phone or a mobile?
I kept thinking it must have been written like 15 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Well, now, so this is the interesting thing. In the Hangout, right, Bonnie said that the name Edward this was predating that because it was published in 2000. And it's not. In actual fact, they were published within a year of each other. So there's no reason for her not to have a mobile, except for if it was written to be based in a time before then.
But then if that were the case, she should have spelt that out, that it was supposed to be set in an earlier time. Because, yeah, it did feel, and I was like, even if she didn't have a mobile because she was very anti-technology or whatever, who has a pager? Nobody has pagers anymore. So I thought that was, especially, and also, if you're going to be a private investigator, why wouldn't you have a mobile phone? It's stupid.
The job itself just seems silly. I just don't understand why you would choose, like, this book was published in, I believe, 2006, 2007. So even in that time period, why would you choose to write a book like this and set it like 10 years in the past when you wouldn't have a mobile phone that would make your job so much more functionally easier?
No, that's not even like, okay, I'm a huge fan of the X-Files, right? That came out in 1993, and they had mobile phones then, and they were always on their mobile phone. That's 1993. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
So they, even if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been a smartphone if it had been set then, but she should have had at least a normal mobile phone.
Now I want to go read through and pay more attention to the technology, because I'm like, what about the internet? What did she do around about that? Like, what was actually going on, and what were the key references in terms of that? And did she keep it straight or not? How old is this woman who wrote it? Seriously.
That could be it. Maybe the person writing it has, you know, a bit of a technophobe or something, and so.
I don't know. It just seems like an interesting choice if you are a technophobe to be into this sort of stuff. All right. I'm going to find out how old this lady is, because I'm just like, I got to know.
Look old.
Let's see, Kat Richardson.
Everybody's Googling.
Yeah.
Google competition, is it?
Yes. I should just sit back and relax and let you guys take care of it.
It says date of birth unknown on her Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
But she posts on the internet, so.
Can somebody else hear that?
Yeah, what?
Are you doing that?
Yeah, so this was published in 2006.
Her bio on her website says that prior to being a writer, she worked as a writer and editor in the computer industry.
I guess not a technophobe then.
No.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
There's a walking tour of Harper Blaine's neighbourhood, which is cell phone optimised.
Oh my god. Stop it. Sorry.
That's true.
Ah! Just, you guys.
Oh, she didn't have a TV until 2011. Who doesn't have a TV?
Actually, you'd be surprised. I've got a couple of friends who don't own TVs. They just read books.
Sadly, not mine.
I don't really watch TV, but I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
Yeah. But I don't think it's the same thing, because it's really the choice of not having a cell phone or a mobile phone is really affecting her job. It's not like, it'd be like not having a TV, but you worked in the entertainment industry, you know, like you were an entertainment reporter or something, but you didn't ever watch TV.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean, not only that, like the fact that nobody actually questioned the fact that she was so difficult to get a hold of and things.
I'm terrible. I don't leave voicemails for people.
Judging
They don't
by...
answer, I don't.
Sorry.
No, you're right. Sorry.
I was just going to say, sorry, that in judging by the descriptions in the book, how annoying would a pager have been anyway? Like, oh, I'm being paged, I have to, like, run down the street to a payphone. I mean, that's just, like, I mean, really? That would be really annoying.
We all had a pager too, because it said that he pages his brother pages him when he gets somewhere safe, and I'm like, he has a pager. See, that's why I thought this book. I didn't actually read the date that it was written, from it was first published, but I'm like, oh, obviously this is like from the 1990s or something, not from 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you think of old medical dramas, you know, like where the doctors are always getting paged and then it's an emergency or something.
I didn't get a vibe of it being earlier than the 1990s in terms of the style and the, you know, the culture and that. For me, it had to be 1990s or earlier. And as you said, if it was the 1990s, then her job should require her to have a mobile phone at that point.
Especially, you'd think after almost getting killed by someone that you'd go, well, I might just start carrying a mobile phone so I can at least ring for help if need be, you know. Like the reason that, like, my mum got one of those, you know, the old brick phones that are like this big. You couldn't even fit it in your handbag. It'd be bigger than your handbag. My mum had one of them when they first came out because she used to drive. She used to work in a bar as a barmaid. So she'd be driving home, and this was at the airbase out at Amberley. So the drive back is really not very many cars would be on the road at that time, and sort of through the trees, and it's a bit scary to be driving by yourself at night through there, and she always was afraid she'd break down. So she got one of those giant mobile phones so she could call for help if the car broke down. And you'd think that after you've had this near-death experience, someone attacking you, that you'd go, I might just get a mobile phone just for safety.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Even if it's not for the job, but totally the job makes sense too.
Even if you didn't like using it and you just carried it for emergencies or whatever.
But like the thing is, the thing to me is that she, clearly the author isn't into technology, and that's fine, but then why write about a job that would be really quite strongly based around technology?
I mean, she doesn't seem to use the internet. So I think Will was using the internet, didn't he? Because he said everything's online, well, everything's digitized now, and it's like, so I didn't see her do, you know, just a Google search of some people would be.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it seems very old school.
And like the continuity of the story, also continuing on what we were saying earlier about the what's the word I'm looking for? Making sense of the story. Who has receipts and like willingly gives them over to like private investigators? And who, like, I mean, that doesn't seem very realistic. Like she just like was able to get all the things, and like that doesn't happen in real life, I don't think.
I don't certainly think it's just sitting around like that so often. Well, I have to say that I'm not particularly good with receipts, so that might be why.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you run a business, you've got to keep them all, so they'd be there somewhere. But yeah, I guess if you're writing them off for tax, you'd have a copy, but and business guy, then he'd have a copy, but other than that.
Well, just like with that particular part of the story, right? Like we get this whole story of her contacting a lady and her husband having died, and she's got the receipt, and she goes to her house and she sits down and she tells her about this. Like none of that was actually necessary for the story at all. Like, and yet so much time was spent in describing and going through this situation. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm not a critical reader or writer or anything like that, but it seems to me that she should have spent more time in the story on important elements rather than going through this completely unnecessary connection with this lady, I guess.
I suppose they wouldn't even make a movie out of it. Their job would be easy, not knowing what to cut out.
Then to do half the book. Jamie, you've got to stop saying that you're not a critical reader. I don't think any of us are particularly critical readers.
I'm really bad with that, actually. I'm not very critical.
I tend to get super paranoid that before I open my mouth and start talking about something that I'm thinking, oh, am I expert on this? If I'm not an expert, then I really shouldn't be saying anything. It's a bad habit of mine. So
you're giving an opinion, and your opinion is valid.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm just
But-
putting on more layers of clothing. It's cold.
I haven't heard my heater click on for a little while. I'm like, it better come soon or I'm going to be cold.
Mine's really loud. Actually, it'll probably be all right, but yeah.
Put it on. Mine's quite loud too, but I don't think anybody ever notices it apart from me waiting to come. Come on, heat. They're cold at the moment. But yeah, I have to agree about most of what we've said. I think even though sort of we all had different opinions, I think we pretty much thought the same thing about the book overall. Like,
Yeah, the more I talk about it, the more I think, why did I say I liked it so much? And I think it's just because, like I said, like I was really ready to read something that was just so easy to read, and I think it was refreshing for me. Because I had read quite a lot of, like, I think I read the last 2 Mistborn books in a row, which I loved, but they're quite heavy and they're really long. And I forget what I read before that. I think it was a Sword and Laser one, and I was just like, I was reading these books that were taking me a month to read, and I was dropping behind in my like I've made my Goodreads goal, and I'm so far behind in it. And when I read this, it was like, this was one of those books that I could just pick up and read if I was doing stuff during the day and Xander was keeping me busy, and then I had 5 minutes to myself, I could pick up and read, and I didn't have to really think. So I liked that.
I think I would
Yeah,
have liked it if it was a bit lighter. I wanted Dragon actually lighter.
Yeah, I would have liked that too. I think I was really in the mood for that.
Yeah, I have to admit too that if this book had been anything other than what it was, I probably wouldn't have been able to get through it because I'm just incredibly busy and I couldn't even get through Mistborn, and I love those books. So yeah, it was definitely easy to finish. So that's good at least. I am happy for that because I don't think I could have done another Lions of Alrasan or whatever.
Look,
Yeah, I didn't get to that one. And
I didn't finish that one. I got about halfway through it.
Yeah, same.
That was really good.
Yeah,
I was enjoying it, but I just didn't get to finish it.
It was heavy
I
read.
knew
It
I
wasn't
would.
like before.
I
But,
knew
like, this
it was either going to be that or Mistborn.
But this one, I think,
one.
the quality of the writing, if it had been any heavier, I wouldn't have finished it at all because I was almost ready. As soon as the vampire showed up, I was like, oh god, I want to toss it, but I thought, oh, just finish it. It won't take that long.
And the fluctuating chapter lengths as well. Like, at the start of the book, the chapters are about 6 pages each, and then they end up being 24 pages. That drives me crazy. And when they started to get longer, and then they'd be a short one again, really long, really short, that was the point where I was like, seriously, I'm going to choke this author through the book.
That's funny because I never noticed things like that. Because I don't always make myself finish on the end of a chapter. If I'm getting sick of reading and it's the middle of that chapter, I just put it down anyway. So I never noticed how long the chapters are.
I usually notice chapter lengths, but this one I just was trying to read it as quickly as possible, and I think with the copy I was reading, the way it formatted, a lot of my chapters tended to end on a full page. So when I went to the next page, it was pretty much like it wasn't there. I tend to notice more white space, and I notice it more when I'm reading a paper copy, probably.
I must admit that definitely the way this is printed made me think it wasn't a very long book. It's got really big spacing in between the words and things.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's a big book in terms of its size for a paperback, but it's so spaced out, and the pages are really, like, for paper, quite fat. So I was like, it won't take me long.
Did you guys think... Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think the last 100 pages I did because I was just like, just finish the goddamn thing.
Do you guys find it, with a book like this, right, that's, enjoyable, could be a favorite, like, Bonnie said it's one of her favorite series and stuff, fair enough. But do you guys think it's realistic that all 4 of them weren't more critical about the book? Like,
yeah, it was only really
think maybe...
like it.
Yeah. I find that interesting because I just don't think it's that good of a book, so I don't understand why they think it's an okay book, I suppose. I don't know. Like, do you think that the fact that the authors usually watch the Hangouts has an impact on what they say?
Did anyone notice that the author was actually on the forums?
Yeah.
I think it would colour the way I talked about it. I would feel bad just completely bagging out a book that I knew the author was listening. I mean, regardless of how good the writing is, they've put their heart and soul into it, and so I'd probably be trying to be more diplomatic, and maybe that's what they were doing.
I do that in my reviews. I won't say in a review, my God, this was just so sucky or anything on those lines. I still say something because I want to make sure people who do read my reviews actually get some real information. But I do know I hold back the punches. I don't go right for it. And in these hangouts, because yeah, they're put up so we can watch them, but they're all made private, so they're only available to those who are in the circle. Unlike the other one, I feel quite free to say whatever I really think in here.
Yeah.
Whereas I think like the Beaver Dreams Hangout, I've never watched it, but I know that they're available for others to go and watch. And
Really?
Yeah, you can go watch them. They do a whole different setup where they do something more like what the other ladies do, where not everybody can just come in. They do like a certain number of people in the room, and people have a forum chat going in the background. So,
Oh, okay.
not like ours, just because we ran out of room, but like as in they only have 4 or 5 people in the room max, and so it's a very different setup for what they do, which is why I think it's public. I also think that's why they've got T-shirts.
We need T-shirts. Just saying.
You know what I want? I want a wine glass.
Yes.
In the hangout, they had those wine glasses. I want one of them.
You can easily make those. I mean, not I think easily is a kind of subjective term, but there's like you can find like YouTube videos where you can do etching on wine glasses pretty easily.
Really?
Yeah, all you need a stencil. I've got armor etch cream, so if you can do the stencil and put it on the glass, you just put the etchant on there, and leave it, and then wash it off.
Yep, that's all you have to do.
Yeah, the stencil is the hard part.
Yeah.
In fact, that's probably how that wine glass got made. Was by someone doing it that way.
The reason we don't have T-shirts is because we don't have a logo properly designed. I've tried, but it's not working.
Yeah.
Oh, we should get Olivia to do it. Doesn't she do some of the headers and stuff?
She doesn't do that kind of design stuff. She's about the same level as I am, and it's a whole other skill to be able to actually draw out your own design. I can draw, but I don't do logo style drawing, and so I need.
Yeah, I'm not good with that either.
Someone else to clean it up, and I don't know how to do the clean up part. And Olivia pulled back from that one right away. She was just like, nah, can't do that. So
I quite like the one we've got on our Facebook.
That one was done by my partner. He did that one for us. So
I like that with the little Australia, because I think it's not too different from the other one, and it'd be quite I like it.
Yeah, that one.
And I like sorry.
No, you're right. I just told Nye what I wanted, and he did that one up for me. But basically, he just ripped it from the original Vaginal Fantasy, did a couple of extra bits and pieces, and then slapped an Australian flag on it.
I like that. And I also think if we're going to do another T-shirt, I would like the idea of it just being the logo and not the words.
Yeah, more likely to wear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Casual time at work, right?
Well, I'm a primary school teacher, so it would not be being worn to work. Even just the logo, probably not.
I'd like the logo to be that yay big. Not like this, but like this. I want it there, but I'm cream.
Are you telling me we have a Facebook page for the Land Down Under? Or just Vaginal Fantasy Down Under?
Vaginal Fantasy. I'm in the Vaginal Fantasy one.
Okay.
I've never put one up for Land Down Under because it seemed a bit superfluous. So, and we have a whole group page on Goodreads. So I thought it was just
that's cool.
to manage if we did that. Plus, part of the reasons we're getting more people into Land Down Under is because of the Vaginal Fantasy connection. So, you don't want to completely override it.
Well, bringing up next month's book, is anyone else having a hard time finding a copy of it? I mean, I guess you can get it on Book Depository, but
The he,
there's not,
she,
no Kindle versions or anything.
the he, she,
That-
she,
What?
the he, she, it one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, what I've said for the next hangout, or my suggestion for the next hangout, we don't have to do it, but is that we make the alt the main, because we can at least get that on Kindle.
Yeah, I'm about almost halfway through the alt.
I figured, like, if anybody wants to read the main and discuss it, we're welcome to, but we'll treat it like the alt and then make the real alt our main, so that we had more chance of people actually reading it. Because I know, well, you could order it, but the chances of it getting here in time, or at least depending on some people and how fast they read, like I could read it, some people could read it in that amount of time after it took, 2-3 weeks to get here. But I still think that that's a really big ask for a lot of people to do that. So,
and that's if it doesn't take more than a month. I remember before I got my Kindle, and I think it was one of the books for Sword and Laser that I ordered, and it didn't come at all. Basically, an email like 3 months after I'd ordered it saying, "Oh, sorry, we couldn't source this book and we refunded you." Well, it was a bit bloody late now. So I went and bought a Kindle and went, right, that's it. I'm not doing this anymore.
It's a shame because I'm really interested in both of the books. Like, they seem really interesting and different, but I don't think I'm actually going to end up reading them because I don't really like to buy Kindle books. I try to avoid Amazon where possible, and can't get one of them on Kindle anyway, and ordering from Book Depository just takes too long.
have you tried getting the alt on in some other format? Like, where do you usually buy ebooks from?
I usually buy Kindle books if I have to, and I usually get them from the library. And then Book Depository is like my third option.
Yeah.
So after that, it's just kind of like, do I spend $20 to get it sent to me, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, even my library was useless for this month's lot, so.
Yeah.
Well, this one's
I mean,
quite an
mine's
old
got
book.
the alt. No.
The alt was published in the early 80s.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be interesting then as a read.
It is. It's really quite interesting because it's that way in the future. And they've got like the place where she lives is like this house in the clouds and stuff, and she listens to her music on tapes.
Was that one that was read that was the Nora Roberts book, and it was like that? It was set in the future, but it was written way a long time ago, and you're looking at some of this technology going, this would not exist anymore.
Like discs, I think they had in that one, wasn't it? Everything was on discs.
Yes, discs. Yes, they were still using discs.
Well,
Oh, hilarious. And the funny thing is, too, though, is I'm less accepting of that in a book that was written, say, in the 80s and 90s, whereas if I read a book from, like, the 60s set in the future, I'd be more tolerant of the choices they made.
Because everything back then was on magnetic tape and...
Yeah, records and things. Was a very different sort of thing. But see, I think the thing is back then they more thought outside of the box and they didn't try to refer to specific things anymore. Whereas now I tend to find, unless they talk really way in the future, if they just go a little bit into the future, they try to refer to what they think is coming and what they think will still be around, and I think that's a very bad choice if you want your book to last.
Yeah, there you go. Silver Medal Lover 1981. So it's 1 year younger than me. Now you know how old I am.
Don't worry, you're only 2 years older than me. There you go.
That might actually make it the oldest book we've read for vaginal fantasy.
Yeah, I think it might be.
oh, sorry, guys. Supposed to mute my mic then. Sorry. It's like my partner, his brothers, like come in and started chatting to me. I'm like, yeah, my apologies.
This is how it works. It's funny that
God. Yes, please. All right. Sorry. I'm sorry. God, that's so rude. Okay. I'm good.
Fine. We're having such an engaging conversation. Not to say you guys are boring. I just mean, like, we're not exactly on topic or anything. We're just randomly talking about things. It's all good. All good. Yeah. So what do you think? We've done about 10 minutes of discussion tonight.
Yeah, possibly.
One day I'm going to actually time it and
Yeah.
No, that's
Go stopwatch
That's
out and
adding up
watch the
your
thing again and go, right, we're talking about the book. Right, stop talking about the book.
start talking about the book. Start again. Okay, in total we did 3 minutes.
Yes. Go.
But then
I
some of
have
the
to-
people I think are on topic even though they're not directly on topic. So
Mm. I have to admit that in
It's
the
on
video
tangents.
hangout. Yeah, tangent. Well, actually, no, this is on topic. In the hangout, I'm really surprised that this book is Bonnie's favorite. I would expect one of Bonnie's favorite books or series to be like cool and noir and like very
And have sexy times in it.
yeah, at least.
yeah. I was surprised that her favourite didn't have that.
is it my imagination or has it been a while since we've had a book that really had sexy times in it?
I've missed a few lately, so I don't know.
I'd have to look back. I know that the last one didn't, and I'm just sort of thinking, I feel like I haven't read one for a while now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit frustrating actually, because like there's so many great potentially great like books out there that involve like sexy times. I don't understand why it's so difficult to kind of actually pick a book that has sexy times in it. I guess. You know what I mean?
But have you guys seen the poll for next month and how much of a mess it is?
I saw how many. I just looked at it because I hadn't looked at it yet. I just looked at it and I went, you know what? I don't think I'm on.
It's not really that
options.
difficult.
What?
I don't understand why people are struggling with it. Like people are writing in multiple books and books we've already had done.
Because people don't read. People don't read.
Yeah.
You know how I don't know they don't read? Because they asked to join the Facebook page and they don't post in the forums. And I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I say it in bold. I'm like, come on, people. I need to know who you are.
You're not some weirdo who just went, oh, that looks interesting.
Like, it has actually happened where I've had people ask to join and they think it's something totally different. And I'm like, who are you? BF is. That's what I do. If I can't find them on the forums or they don't reply, I send them a message and say, hi, do you know what VF actually is?
Oh, I thought it was a porn thing.
But on ours, it doesn't
Well,
even
the
have
thing
the
about your
word.
name
It
is
just
VF,
says
people
VF.
don't guess it.
Yeah, they don't know what VF is because it doesn't. I don't in our Facebook page. It doesn't say vaginal fantasy at all. It just says VF down under, so they don't think it's porn.
Yeah. Not like when the Google Hangout and Twitter trends on the official one, and people are like, "What the hell is this?"
I'm actually surprised they use the hashtag or don't have a different hashtag because I've looked up in non-hangout time the vaginal fantasy hashtag. That was a big mistake.
Oh, really?
Do you know how often I tell people that, like, oh yeah, I'm just hanging, I don't think about it, like, oh yeah, I'm just having a book hangout club tonight with the vaginal fantasy, and people look at me like, yeah, I don't know what that is.
But it sounds really good.
Sounds bad.
Yeah.
Response
Fun
you
sex
get.
party.
Looks of horror.
It's funny. Have you guys seen some of the options for this, by the way, for the next book, or the next month or whatever, for vaginal
Yeah,
fantasy?
I went through
It's a
them.
very long list.
It's crazy. Like
Yeah.
some of these. Ugh. The top two look like Magic Bites by Iona. Is it Iona? Alana Andrews and Discovery of Witches. I don't know. I haven't read both of them. Thank you. Sorry.
Basically, everybody's just voting for whatever their favourite book is or putting it on the list.
Yeah.
And look, I've got no problems with us having a pick, but I think it's a lot easier if Felicia picks like 5 books or just does like a
Yeah.
forum full of suggestions and then picks a couple of the popular ones and pops up a vote from that. Because this is
Yeah.
the voting system.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I-
wait until near the end, and then I'm gonna change my vote to one of the top three, whichever of the top three sounds the best to
Yeah,
me.
same. Yeah,
Because
same.
you know the one I voted for is not gonna win, so.
Yeah, same. What did I vote for? I voted for
I voted
Piece
for
of
Bit
Steel.
I probably
Yeah,
put
so-
the best.
I really hope Little K Hamilton doesn't win. And I really hope
Yeah.
Anne Rice doesn't win because those Sleeping Beauty books are just
that's too much.
trigger warnings, man. Ugh.
Well,
Eh.
when I went to vote, because it was still kind of earlier at that point, they had a whole heap of books that were from authors we'd already read. And it was like, oh, what was the one? The Mary Gentry series and things like that. And I was just like,
yeah.
yeah, I was just
Well,
like, no.
Poison Study has like 11 votes, and we read that one, and it wasn't even that long ago.
Hmm.
Well,
Maybe I'm just. It
Felicia
seems like
said
it wasn't that long ago.
clean up votes which shouldn't be on there because they were books we'd already read. So obviously she hasn't had a chance to do that. But from what I understand, Felicia's handling most of the forum management by herself because Speak and Sundry don't really do anything except for host the hangout. So basically, Bonnie does some of the vaginal fantasy tweeting. I know she does that, but otherwise Felicia handles it all.
God, could you imagine how busy she would be?
Poison Studies on
I know.
here. We read Poison
That's what I
Study.
just said, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what would be
Yeah.
a really good book to read? Dark Fever. Have you guys read that?
On
Those
the
books?
list.
That's on the list. It's
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
I
actually
see that.
be. That would be a perfect vaginal fantasy book.
That's the fourth one, so it could win if we all our votes at the last minute.
I think I might change my vote to that because that is like a really good vaginal fantasy option. I'm surprised we actually haven't read it yet because it's like freaking awesome.
Well, I've actually got
Okay.
it for my gift exchange, so I'm going to go change to that now.
Yeah, I'm gonna change mine too.
I'm like, if Peter Greens gets picked, Kirsten's alright if she doesn't want to read a book next month. She's just read it.
Well, that's
But
what
that's
I
actually on
voted
here
for.
twice. Yeah,
I
Arcane
put-
Druid's
I-
on
I
here. And,
I
She
voted
said that
for
she
Bit of
wasn't
Greens
going to add up the votes either for multiple books. Oh,
Yeah.
damn it.
Yeah, so make sure you vote on the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened with Big Sword and Laser a few months ago. They had a vote like this, and there was two books at the top, and one won, but the other one had a second write-in one, which had an extra 11 votes, and that pushed that one to the top. And you could hear the whole group just howling over it.
Yeah. Dark Fever. Vote. There we go. Done.
Oh my god, it's even longer than last time I looked at it.
I know, that's what I
it's
thought.
huge.
By the way, if
Like,
it doesn't
wait,
get
we've done
picked or
that one.
anything-
We've done that one.
Yeah. If it doesn't get picked or anything, Dark Fever, highly recommend it. Main character of that book is freaking hot. Just saying.
Oh god. It takes
Okay.
them out of order once you turn off your phone. Now you've got to find it. How the
Oh,
hell
does
did
it?
Bobby Dollar get on here?
What?
Dark Fever's the top, by the way.
No, it's not for mine.
Okay.
That's
Bobby
a-
Dollar is on here. I don't know how the friggin' hell Bobby Dollar is on here, but it is.
Dark
I
Fever's
hated
not-
that book.
I remember when I read it, though, I thought it had a bit of a VF kind of vibe to it.
It's got a male protagonist.
Yeah,
Hey,
but
that could still be good.
And I hated him. I didn't like him at all. I wanted
Are you talking about Bobby Dollar like that?
Tad Williams.
Yeah, I didn't like that book. I read it for Sword and Laser. Didn't we?
yeah, I read that for Sword and Laser too. I didn't mind it.
I read it. I didn't hate it. I don't feel like it was, I don't know. It didn't feel female empowering to me.
I can't
It's kinda like
remember it all that
Hounded.
well.
Have you guys read Hounded by Kevin Hearn?
No.
That's that's male fantasy if I've ever seen it. It's a male character lead written by a man, and most of the women in the book have massive tits. Uh,
I'm just sort of trying to figure out why Cassie's coming here. What do I do now? Sorry guys, Cassie commented on the page for the Hangout. I have to check with her whether or not she's got us on Skype, because that would be the better place to reach us.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry guys. Technical situation.
I really want to read The Mad Scientist's Daughter, but I don't really think that's a vaginal fantasy book. Is it?
I reckon what we do is we post on Vaginal Fantasy, VF Down Under on Facebook, and tell everybody that unless they really, really care about the book they've chosen, go vote for Dark Fever now, because it's the first place and we might manage to push it up.
Maybe. Yeah.
Hey, there's 50 people in our group. We could push it up to the top.
Tell
Well,
you
there's
what,
a lot of people that
I'll vote
haven't
on
that
it
might
because I
change
just
their
couldn't be
votes
bothered.
later.
I'm going to have to Control F to find it here.
Yeah. Oh, good idea. Why didn't I think of that?
Kiss the Steel's on here twice.
There we go. Now it's only on the list once, right?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Cool.
So far.
It's already up to number 3 because of us. It was 4 before. It's now number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3. So, like, with our votes, like, even if we didn't get everybody, but if we had enough to sort of make other people think about it as a choice, we might manage. Hey, BF Down Under could actually help control the vote. Power, guys.
Let's make sure it's not the Sleeping Beauty by. Have you guys read the Sleeping Beauty series by Anne Rice?
No, I've heard of it. I've heard it's very BDSM kind of stuff.
That's what I've heard.
Very.
I don't really remember it very well, actually.
I used to always like buy heaps of books at once, and then read through them like back home. Like my mom would always get me like gift cards for like birthdays and Christmases, so I'd go and buy like a whole stack of books in the States where you can buy like books for like $2. And I bought all 3 of those Sleeping Beauty books, and I got like halfway through the first one. I was like, nah, I can't read this. So I had to. I think I donated them to a library or something. I don't know what I did with them.
I donated the Sword Point book to my library because I didn't want to keep it, but because everybody kept going on about it being a classic, I thought, I'll give it to my library. I checked, they had like Tipping the Velvet and all those things, so I thought, oh, okay, well, they won't have any problems with the content or anything. Because nothing's exclusive or anything, and I thought it'd be fine. They still haven't put it on the catalogue.
Oh. Someone's probably read it and been like, nah.
Well, I'm wondering, because there was no official process to donate. They don't normally take donations, they said. And
which is weird, by the way, don't you think?
I think it's very...
I always find that weird, yeah.
They probably would otherwise just get so many people just dumping a bunch of, 50 copies of Twilight or
That's
something.
a good point, yeah.
So it's easier to have a policy of not doing it.
Yeah. I went up to them, though. I said, look, I've actually done my research. I've checked. You guys don't have this book in the catalogue, and it's considered by some to be a bit of a classic. So I thought I'd donate it to the library. And they were really happy to take it and everything, but nothing ever showed up. So I'm wondering if one of the librarians just took it home.
It could just be that they're swamped with other shit to do and they didn't get to it.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But it has been quite a while since we read Swords Point, and I did take it straight away, so... Anyway, not a big deal, really. I just think it's interesting. So I have to take it back about the sexy times thing, guys, because I was sort of feeling like we hadn't had sexy times in a while. But while Lions of Alrasan was last month, the month before that was Hunter's Claim, and there was heaps of sexy time in that.
I didn't read those.
Yeah.
Wish I would have.
Lucky.
Oh, right, Hunter's Claim. I'm going, which one was that? Oh, right, that one.
Yeah.
I didn't read that one, did I?
You could hang out.
I don't think I read that
Oh, it
one.
was terrible, but it was like 200 pages, so...
I finished it as well, but I kept expecting there to be something more. I was like, where the hell is this story? It's just stupid.
Oh.
Yeah, I suppose this year has been a bit light on. I mean, because before that we had Daughter of the Forest, and that one was the only sexy time was not what I would call sexy time.
No, it doesn't
That's a
count.
strange. That's a strange pick for a vaginal fantasy because, from what I remember, Daughter of the Forest was kind of like really depressing.
But
So I read it years ago.
Like Felicia says that she calls these books vaginal fantasy not because of the romance element or anything along those lines, but because of the strong female characters. And so from that aspect,
Okay.
I could see it being picked. And the same goes for like the Lions of El Rasan, even though for me I feel like the biggest romance in that book was the two guys.
I think Bitter Greens would probably fall into that category too. It was a bit like that.
Yeah. And so
There's
I'm
probably
okay.
a bit of trigger warning. I probably should, anyone who's been looking at my review and saying, oh, that was good, I should read it, there's some pretty big trigger warning stuff in that too. Because there's a few scenes that are really, really full on.
Yeah.
But I thought it was worth it though. I thought it was great.
No problems with a good book. But the Dark Angel one, I must admit, looks a bit more like what I would consider to be vaginal fantasy.
Oh, I mean, I think I know you guys pretty well. That's a pretty general thing. I know our group and what we like kind of well. I think most of you would probably really enjoy that series. I think it's fantastic, and it's set in Dublin, which is just like amazing.
Oh, nice.
That's nice. It's a bit of a different setting.
It's really good. It's got heaps of sex in it. Oh, it's just so fantastic. I'm gonna reread it because it was just like, oh man, I went through such a massive like increase in my sex libido when I was reading those books. It was like amazing.
Well,
But it's a bit worrisome though, because like the has anyone here read them before?
Which one?
Probably not. The Dark Fever ones.
No.
No one's read them? Okay, well, I was just going to say it's a bit worrisome because the next series in that like group, in that world, is actually about a girl that's really young. It's a bit disturbing, but that doesn't happen in the original series.
Oh, well, we can cross our fingers. If somebody else doesn't do it, I'm totally posting you now. BF Down Under and asking everyone to change their vote because I can just suggest it, right?
I'll be pushy. I'll do it.
Try not to be
So I think
pushy.
sometimes you kind of feel like, well, what's the point? My vote won't be worth anything. So if you know that a whole bunch of people are going to be voting for that, then you kind of feel like, well, I might actually make a difference then, so it might be worth it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I bothered changing too, because the first two, neither of them had caught my attention as being interesting, so I was sort of like, I'll wait and later and see. But this one, I have got it, and it's been on my to-read list for a while, so I may as well put my weight behind it and try. So.
I've seen it. Discovery.
Well, it's pretty much either someone tell me what to vote for, or I will look up every single one of those books on that list.
Well, that's what I
Just tell me
started
what to vote for.
Like, when it was first put up, I went to view results so that I could see them in order of how many votes they had, and I started looking them up, and I was like, no. So I gave up and didn't vote really until Kirsten suggested the Bitter Greens one, and I was like, okay, that's worth voting for.
I put a post thing on our Facebook page.
I will, however, tell you.
How does something have 0 votes on it?
Someone's changed the
Seems
vote.
weird for something to have 0 votes.
Which one had zero?
Yeah, someone suggested it and then went, you know what? Final Life by Rose Garcia. Right down the bottom.
That's the thing. I don't understand the write-in thing because, like, I'm like, especially at this point when there's so many votes and so many options already up there, I feel like there's no chance a book that I'd suggest would win. May as well go pick it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we got Dragon Actually at some point, so that was cool. So.
Except nobody liked it.
I love that book. Do not.
I think
It was funny.
No, I liked it too. I read all of them. I think I read the last one. But I was really annoyed that nobody liked it. I was like, oh, damn it.
our group was good with it. It was
I'm
the
like,
group.
Dragon Library. There's a Dragon Library.
Yeah.
Well, there's a library owned by a dragon, not an actual dragon library.
Oh,
I'll stay in your cave any
dragon
day.
library. You go to the library and borrow out a dragon. I'm tired of this dragon now. I will take it back.
Yeah.
So you can pick a new dragon.
I might have a
match
few
your outfit.
overdue fees.
Actually, there hasn't been a new one for that series this year. She's taken a break this year. Been shame.
So was the last one the one with the blue-haired guy?
Yeah,
That was the last one I read.
Finished. She's doing more, and she's actually been paid to do more. But she took a break this year. I think she only wrote one book this year because she's been writing for about 3 or 4 different series. So she sort of wrote one book this year and left it at that, and had a bit of a pace break, and is going to have more coming out next year or something. I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep going. I'm sort of feeling like the end of that one was sort of kind of a good spot to end off, and so I'm sort of not sure whether I'm going to keep going with the series. What's the problem with those sorts of series? Sometimes they can just keep going and going and...
Well, look at these, what are they? All the ones that we read, the first and second one of a while back.
In that series.
Yeah, how many of those are there? Like 40 or something?
Yeah, something crazy. I'm actually finding too that it plays a lot in my decision to read a book now is how many books are going to be in the series, or is in the series. The brand ones, the ones he's doing now, the Stormlight series. I'm not.
Brent Sampson.
Yeah. I'm as much as I really enjoy him, and I've heard awesome things about these books. I'm rather skeptical about reading that series because it's supposed to be something like 12 books in the series.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
If it makes you feel any better, he's extremely quick at writing.
Yeah.
So.
Good for him. Love his work. And if I was going to read it, I would have to wait till he published more in the series before I did. But the simple fact of the matter is, 12 books in the series is a very big commitment for books that are like this fat. So I think I'll wait till it gets a bit further in, because I had that problem with the Wheel and Time series in that A, it took forever to come out, B, he got sick and actually died before due. But also the fact of the matter is when a series is that long, the scope of it is so huge that I often end up hating the series before I get to the end.
Or forgetting most of it before you get to the end. That happened with me, The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is actually my first fantasy book I ever read, and I love it. But by the time I got to book 10, which was, I read it before these books were out, like, you just don't remember any of the story, and you completely lost when you go to open up that 10th book, and it's like, I have no idea what's happening anymore.
Yeah.
No idea.
Whereas, the strange thing is David Eddings, The Belgrade and the Malloreon were like some of my first introduction to fantasy, and yet I've never felt that confusion about that series.
Mm.
It's not as complicated a story though, I think. It's much more of a...
Yeah.
I haven't read Wheel of Time, but I'm sort of thinking of something like Game of Thrones, which I have the same problem with, like when the next book comes out, I'm going to be like, what the hell was happening in the last one? Unless, of course, they're up to it, which they probably will be. In the TV show, they'll be up to it, and I'll be able to remember because I watched the TV. But yeah, it's so complicated, and there's so many characters to keep track of. That by the time the next book comes out, you're like, oh, what's going on again?
I can't remember enough about Wheel of Time, but I didn't feel like it was as complex as Game of Thrones, but it certainly had that sort of political feel and a couple of different points of view, whereas the Belgrade and the Malloreon really just has one main point of view pretty much the whole way through. I think that makes it simpler just by itself. And I think I prefer that. As much as it makes me feel simple, I think I prefer it to be a bit simpler. I could handle Mistborn, I think we had, 4 perspectives of Mistborn in the end? I could handle that.
The Starlight Archives, or whatever they're called, there's only 3 main characters, I think, but he does these little interludes and stuff that introduce all these little variety of little characters throughout. and it makes it a bit confusing. Like I read that book and loved that book, but I couldn't tell you what it's about anymore. Actually, it's been too long and too massive to remember. At least with the Wheel of Time, I can remember the first couple of books.
Is the Stormlight one the one where the second one only just came out?
Yeah, Words of Radiance, I think, is the second book. I'm not actually going to read it.
The third one's not out.
No, I don't think he's even started reading the third one because I think he just finished the second one.
And he's also
going to start it until it's out.
Sorry?
Sorry, Kirsten.
I just said, well, I might not start it until the third one out, even though I really liked Mistborn, so I would like to read it, but I might just wait. I've got
He's got other series out that are really good, like Steelheart's really good, and that's not a very heavy read, and it's perfect writing. He's got another Mistborn book as well, but it's a bit of a lighter read. Yeah.
It's set in a couple of 100 years after the others or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yep. And it's different. The magic changes a little, not changes, but because of the time that it evolves into a little bit of a different thing. And he's going to write 2 more of those books, and he's also coming back to the actual Mistborn world, I think, and writing really heavy books there as well. He's also writing some other books called Legion, and he's got this Rhythmatist book as well, which is fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Like he puts out like 4 or 5 books a year or something.
Wow.
It's crazy. And he finished the Wheel of Time series as well.
Yeah, I knew that.
See, my concern about reading too much of him, like I thoroughly enjoyed the Mistborn series, but my concern is reading too much of him. I might start to feel like he's a bit too. I might feel like it's a bit similar. I did that with David Ennings' books after I finished the Belgrade and Mallory, and I thought I'd try the other series that he did. Can't remember the name of it now. But and I was like, it's the same story. It's just
well, I totally understand what you mean, but I've read probably out of every single series at least 1 book from him, and he has never written a story that's been similar to the others. He's crazy imaginative, and his writing is just perfect. And I am a massive fan, if you can't tell. Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with that, and I think gradually I can sort of work my way through. But I also don't want to read them too close together because I'm, like I said, I'm a little bit concerned about that. I prefer to space them up a bit. And I ain't until he gets considerably further through it.
Oh yeah, me being like the biggest fan ever, I'm not going to read the Stormlight Archives or whatever they're called, sorry, until he gets well into them, because I don't want to have to keep rereading the books whenever he brings another one out, you know what I mean?
So what we do is when they all come out and there's all 12 books, we do Land Down Under for the entire year, just that series.
That's right. A book a month.
Oh well.
That's true. Patrick, sorry, just quickly. I'm not going to read the Name of the Wind series. Like, I read the first book and loved it and got partway through the second one and just couldn't keep up with it. And I don't think I'm going to finish it. It's just too much. Like, we're too busy now. Like, we have, like, a quota of books to get through each month. And like, you can't get through those bigger ones anymore. You just can't enjoy the reading.
Yeah,
I'm doing really great reading this one now. Not on any list. Not for any club.
Sorry, hold it up again.
What was that?
We'll have to sacrifice a book just to read that one.
Well, actually, no. It actually worked out really well because I finished this book 2 weeks before I need to have Journey to the Center of Earth read, and everybody keeps saying that one's really short. I was like, well, that's okay. I only need a week to read it, so I've got a week to read this.
And what book is it? Sorry, Mel, because I don't know. I can't. Something's going wrong with my Hangout thing, and I can only see the little pictures down the bottom, and none of the big pictures are coming up. So I can't see it. Hold it up.
It's the first of the Witches collection by Terry Pratchett, so it's called Equal Rights. Oh. The one before Weird Sisters Witches collection.
Oh, cool. I wouldn't mind reading them. I read the Tiffany Aching one, which is sort of a spin-off from that series, which is the young adult version, but it's set in the same sort of, like I think some of the characters that were in it are in those ones or something. I don't know. But I read it for uni, actually. It was one of when I did my children's literature subject last semester. That was one of the books they suggested we read, which was because it's a young adult one, and it was really, really good. And I went, oh, I should read more of these.
Well, you're welcome to join me. We can have a hangout when you're ready or something. But I'm just sort of doing it just as for a bit of fun. I read The Colour of Magic years and years ago and really didn't like it, and so I thought I wouldn't enjoy it. But I seem to be doing all right so far with this one. So I'm not hugely far through. I'm only about a quarter of the way in, but it's light. I don't have to think hard. I'm certainly have no problems with picking it up and reading a bit every now and then. So it's light enough that you don't have to. It's not like Mistborn where you need to solid blocks of time or anything.
Mm.
Lots of fun. I'm supposed to be reading Gates of Women's Country, but I haven't gone back to it.
Oh. I couldn't get into that book.
I'm not far enough into it to really say that I'm not liking it. Like, I sort of try to get to a certain point before I give it up, but the problem is I didn't get far enough in to make me really want to go back to it when I got interrupted because I had to go read a book club book. And so it's been sitting on my side table for about a month and a half. That book. Feeling the pressure. Oh, well. I wanted something light, so I'll get back to it eventually. Maybe I'll read that instead of reading the name, because won't be reading The Name of the Wind for Sylvan Laser this month.
It's a bit of a long one to reread after reading it so recently.
Oh, yeah, there's no way. And especially because I don't feel like I need to reread before reading the second one for us in, I think we're doing it in October. So, yeah, can't be bothered.
Just look at this little comic that catches you up.
Well, that's the good thing about next month. It's all comics. Yay!
Yes, yeah.
Mm.
Afternoon of reading and we'll be all caught up. Just think, Kirsten, you'll get all of those ticks for having read a book.
I know.
Although I'm not sure.
I'm never going to make my goal this year. It's just not going to happen.
I keep forgetting to actually mark off the books I've read, so I'm ahead of where I actually says I am. I've just got to go back and look at all the books I've actually read and mark them as read.
I'm like...
I've been a bit slack.
Jamie?
I was going to say, I'm like completely OCD when it comes to that. As soon as I'm done with a book, I'm like, gotta log it on my Goodreads, gotta get my challenge up there.
Probably because I keep
I
finishing like on the day of the hangout, and I'm like, just got to get to the hangout, and then I forget about actually marking it as read.
Yeah.
I'm like you, Jamie. If I finish the book like really late at night and I'm like, okay, now I've got to go sleep, I can't until I've done my Goodreads.
Yeah, exactly. Same. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'm really happy at the moment because I'm about 3 books ahead on my goal, and so I'm like, yes.
Oh, I'm so far behind on mine. I've read 33. I made my goal 100, and I've only read 33, and most of them are comics. So they don't mostly count anyway. Like I've got, let me see how many of these are comics of that 33.
Just reset your goal then. There's nothing wrong with resetting your goal to something you think you can achieve.
I'm 4 books behind. I set my goal for 50.
I set mine for 26, so one every 2 weeks, and I'm still 4 books behind. Which is still, but you know.
But it's only about what you think you can handle. Like, I did 52 books for the year because I figured one a week is doable for me. But I also do that knowing that some books will take me 2 weeks and some books I'll do in a night because it's something. So.
See, I put mine at 100 because I did that the last time, and I was like, well, I know I will be reading a bunch of comics, so I sort of thought I'm going to put it at a higher one to make up for that, but it's still so fucking fun.
I don't think you realise that having Xander might take up quite so much time.
No, I did. I kind of thought, you know, especially when he was real little and he was taking 45 minutes to breastfeed. I was at least getting 45 minutes every breastfeed to sit and read. And now he's at an age where he decides to try and knock the book out of my hand or you know, like, and he only usually feeds for like 10, 15 minutes now. Like, he's real quick at it. But he also wriggles around and carries on, and I can't just sit there and read. He tries to grab my book. Like, what have you got in your hand that's interesting, Mum? Or he's like, thinks it's really funny to smack me in the face while he'll be just lying there and gone and just smacking me in the face because it's like, this is fun.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pick my nose.
Adorable. That's adorable.
It kind of is, but yeah, you don't get any reading done.
How about you, Beck? How do you go with your reading goals?
I haven't really said anything. Yeah, it depends on my mood because I read a lot of fan fiction. There's actually a website I go to which has like amateur stuff, and I read a lot on there as well, so I can't classify it.
Well, actually, interestingly enough, I found some fiction that I'd read on AO3 on Goodreads, and I was like, yes, I can mark it as read. This is long as 2 books.
I've been really caught up with Dragon Age fan fiction lately, so yeah, it's taken up most of my time. It's really bad.
Fan fiction, unfortunately, is what I love. A good bit of fan fiction myself, and unfortunately, sometimes it takes as long as a book. Like they are as long as books or longer.
Yeah, some of them can be.
Some are like longer than the actual book itself.
It's insanity, but amazing that these people have written these pieces of work. Hey, I've got 2 versions of Sherlock in my head. There's the fanfic version and there's the real TV show version.
Which one do you like better?
I refuse to respond.
I assume the fan fiction version will be a bit sexier, like openly sexier.
Yeah. But it's not really about that. It's about the fact that there's a freaking relationship in the first place.
Yeah, see, the only fan fiction I've seen of Sherlock, yeah. No, I saw a comic one, and then I went, I should stop looking at this. This is very wrong.
Not wrong. There's nothing wrong with it.
You know, if I had the time, I think I would really
So like you like
fan
Watson a bit too much in this version.
I've read a few that have got quite a bit in it, but there's a lot of the ones that are out there that are really well written and aren't all just sexy time as well. So, you know, it's just a bit of balance and stuff. Not that I mind a bit of sexy time, of course. Anyway.
One
guys,
thing I always gotta say something when you're ready to log off, and then I ruin it. I'm
I'll
sorry.
say it, and it's okay.
I was just gonna say that I think I would really like fan fiction if I could get into it. But one thing that I've been getting into because of my partner's brother, he just moved in with us, is anime. Anime is amazing, and I don't know why I haven't discovered it until now. Like the last 2 weeks, like I wasted my whole weekend watching like Magica Modica Magi or something like that. It is amazing. Oh, so good. But anyway, that's my new thing.
I just got a new series I watched last week that was really good called Sword Art Online, and I loved it.
I have to say, lots of people tend to, most people's favourite, if they see it, is Cowboy Bebop. It's one of the highest rated, or at least Western audiences like Cowboy Bebop the most. That's the one that most people will say they love the most.
Yeah, to watch
We
it.
have that on DVD and I haven't watched it.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, we did. I haven't watched it. Matt loves it,
It's
and I haven't
awesome.
watched it. I've only seen a couple of anime.
Yeah, I've only seen one now, but I'm watching Fairy Tale now, apparently. That's what my brother-in-law is getting me to watch. Well, I've only watched like one episode. It's got like 240 episodes or something like that. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's really funny because some just go for like the 13 episodes, then they're done, and others just go on and on and on, and it just seems to be one or the other.
Yep, very much so. Alright guys, I have to get up very early in the morning, so I'm unfortunately ending this a little bit earlier than I usually do.
No worries.
Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. Alrighty then. For those of you who are coming 2 weeks away till Olivia's hangout for Journey to the Centre of the Earth, and I've already scheduled our next hangout for VF Down Under, so that's all up. Invites have been sent and everything. If anybody wants to discuss more Greywalker, there's the second hangout next week that Jasmine's going to be doing. So, you know, if you feel like there was more to say, I'm sure she'd be happy to have you along. Just be aware that one is going to be later in the evenings because she's doing it more for a West Coast time zone. So that one will be about 9:30 for the Eastern Coast.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a fantastic month, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.